please tell me how to sleep through this? And this is just the start. Welcome to Brampton, and this noise can be heard miles away. This is 100% Canada. Trust me.
Kindly please put your phones away. We're going to deal with it, okay? Thank you.
You don't understand what is going on.
That's another thing.
You can see that. It's crazy, you know?
We can bomb this whole thing, you know.
We take you to a baseball game and then you will realize that how it feels. Let's take you to an NHL game and make you feel like
This is disgusting. Disgusting.
Yo, good morning. Why are y'all coming on the bus musty at 8 a.m. in the morning, bro? 8 a.m. in the morning. Your armpits stink. Your breath stink. What are we doing, yo? What are we doing?
India could send 2 million Indians to every country on earth. 200 countries, and it would still have 1 billion Indians in its own country. That's how densely populated India is.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So I have a question for you guys today. Have you ever felt like you're tired of seeing the same news stories or dealing with the same issues over and over again? And what if that fatigue was directed to at a group of people? That's the core of a recent and very controversial discussion that has been building momentum online. The concept of Indian fatigue in Canada, quote unquote. It is a term that describes a growing weariness among some Canadians with the behaviors and perceived attitudes of Indian immigrants. But what exactly are they tired of? Accusations range from Indian immigrants taking jobs and failing to integrate into Canadian culture to allegations of self-segregation and even racism. And of course, this is not just a one-sided conversation. Many in the Indian community are pushing back, arguing that they are being unfairly scapegoated for systemic government failures related to housing and jobs. So, is this a matter of a community that needs to adapt, or is it a case of misplaced blame? In this video, we are going to talk about these two sides of this debate. We look at the specific complaints made by Canadians and hear the counter arguments from the Indian community. This is not just about opinions, it is about understanding a complex social phenomenon that is shaping the conversation around immigration in Canada. Good people, before we get into the details, please take a moment to hit the like button if you find this topic interesting. Be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And as always, your thoughts are important, so leave a comment down below and share this video with your friends. Let us watch the clips and then I'll be back to discuss everything with you.
Like any words for anybody out there that might be watching this, what would it be?
We need to do something about these Indians.
Is it like different ethnicities?
Huh?
Like all immigrants?
Not all immigrants.
Okay.
They are majority.
Were you an immigrant as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Where are you from?
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I came here without paper just like them, but it wasn't like this. You have to behave yourself. If you don't behave yourself, they send you back. But what they're doing about them, nothing. Because you know what? All of them get the same name. All of them get the same last name. So you can't know who.
People just are not adapting to the culture that's here. And I think that it's okay to adapt to the good things. There's a lot of great things that the Canadian culture is. And if you can't and here's the other thing. I feel like Indians that are coming now, they are wanting people to adapt to them, and they want Canadians to change and look into their culture and their religion and into their events. Like Diwali happens, right?
Yeah.
And all these people start going to Toronto downtown, start blowing off fireworks, going all crazy, right? But in the same time, if the Canadian culture, so something like Thanksgiving happens, they don't participate.
I found a deeper hitting version of why are South Asians the most hated in Canada, and this is my honest opinion. There's a reason the South Asian community, particularly us Indians, often get side-eyed in Canada, while other immigrant groups, they quietly integrate, build lives, and create opportunities. We seem to thrive on chaos. Why? First, entitlement. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that moving to Canada was a privilege, not a right. Instead of adapting, we impose our culture, our noise, our ways. It's one thing to celebrate Diwali, it's another to turn residential streets into a rave, completely with firecrackers and traffic jams. When people call us out, we play the victim. They don't understand our culture. But maybe we are the ones who don't understand the value of blending in respectfully. Then there's our obsession with shortcuts. Fake marriages, fraudulent job offers, under the table work. It's no secret. Instead of playing the long game like other communities, we want instant success. So why are we hated? Maybe it's because we refuse to take responsibility. We are loud, unapologetic, and often disrespected of the very system that gave us a chance. And when the backlash comes,
I can't wait till all those Indians go back home. Because then all you Canadians will actually have no one left to blame. Because then you'll realize that all these things that you're actually blaming these students for, lack of housing, lack of jobs, cost of living, inflation, you having no sex life, actually wasn't their fault at all. It actually was the fault of a federal government who literally continues to favor billionaire corporations and doesn't make them pay their fair share. It actually was the fault of people like Doe Ford bleeding out the healthcare system, continuing to prop up their developer buddies without building affordable housing, of government programs that colleges and governments and shady recruiters all took advantage of, and that the vast majority of these kids were just hard-working students who were actually propping up our economy, working their asses off, and getting treated like absolute shit in some of the most disgusting racism I have ever seen, stoked by far-right online hate groups, and that this country is actually going to be worse off for the way we have treated them and for making this place so inhospitable for so many of them.
That's one of the scariest things I've seen. Are we really at a point in Canada where we're calling it Indian fatigue? As a South Asian woman who has lived in Canada almost all her life, I came here when I was 2 and I'm 32 right now. I don't even know what to make of this. I know we're all sick of it. We're all sick of immigrants that cannot speak English and they get our jobs that our kids should get. But is this really the way to behave? Is this really the way to talk? The anger should be with our government. Our government is literally trying to divide and conquer. They want us to fight in between ourselves. They do not want us to come together. And for once, can Canadians protest for Canadian rights? I would love to come together with other Canadians that have the same views as me, but this is an extreme. I do not believe in talking to people like this. Of course, you want to do it, okay? And maybe even the Tim Horton worker deserved it. Because why are you working in a customer service job when you don't even know the language? When you cannot even get a simple Tim Horton order right? And just so everyone knows, I worked at Tim Horton for about 10 years, so I know what I'm talking about. Working at Tim Hortons is not that hard. But yeah, I have no idea what side of the spectrum I'm on. Yes, I don't believe that so many immigrants should be here and not even try to learn our language. But I also don't believe in talking to people like this. This anger should be with our government. Our government allowed this. So if there's people that want to calmly discuss the issues that we have in Canada, that want to direct their anger towards the government, I'm here with you. Let's connect.
Blessed people, welcome back. I hope those clips gave you a lot to think about. This is a tough conversation, but it is one that's happening, and it is important to understand the different perspectives at play. The Indian fatigue phenomenon we've been discussing is a complex and rooted in a number of specific complaints. Let us break down some of the most common ones. And some of these complaints that what are these Canadian people saying about this issue? And a major point of contention is the issue of the jobs. There is a widespread belief among some Canadians that Indian immigrants are taking jobs that should rightfully belong to their own citizens. One of the most frequently cited examples is low-wage positions like those at Tim Hortons. The frustration is that some immigrants who are not fluent in English are being hired for those roles while Canadian citizens and their children struggle to find work. Beyond the job market, there is a significant amount of friction over behavior and cultural integration. Canadians have expressed complaints about what they describe as indiscipline or so-called Indian behaviors. For instance, there are specific and personal grievances such as complaints about poor hygiene. We hear things like people coming on bus musty at 8 a.m. in the morning with armpit stink and breath stink, quote unquote. Then there is the broader issue of disrespecting and disregarding Canadian culture. Many Canadians feel that Indian immigrants are not making a genuine effort to adapt. Instead of embracing Canadian traditions like Thanksgiving, the accusation is that they want Canadians to adapt to their culture and religion. Sounds diabolic, my brother. This leads to the perception that Indian immigrants are imposing their culture and noise. A prime example is how certain celebrations like Diwali are conducted. The complaint isn't about this festival itself, but about the way it is celebrated by turning residential streets into a rave with firecrackers and traffic jams rather than celebrating respectfully. This is often framed as a lack of consideration for their neighbors and the community they've joined. Finally, there is the perception of loud and unapologetic behavior. Indian immigrants are sometimes described as being loud, unapologetic, and disrespectful of the very system that they gave them a chance to live in Canada. There is a sense that they are not grateful for the opportunity and are instead trying to change the country to fit their own needs. Now, there are the accusations of racism and self-segregation. Let us talk about this. And this is another major issue of the racism and racial segregation that is deeply uncomfortable topic, but it is a key part of the Indian fatigue narrative because they claim that Indian immigrants only employ themselves and primarily live among themselves, a practice often seen as discriminatory or self-segregation. This extends to property owners who allegedly discriminate against Canadian citizens when leasing property. This is something that is happening in Kenya, by the way. If you're not an Indian, when you go to Kileleshwa, you can't rent a property. So some people believe that this practice of living amongst themselves and maintaining distinct cultural traditions and styles of dress blurs the line between cultural conservatism and racism, defining racism as a type of discrimination. So, guys, what are they saying? They're saying that this behavior is not limited to Canada, but it is a pattern seen in other countries where Indian migrants, like Kenya, of course, is a good example. Go to South Africa, Tanzania. So, these Indians have said that they are using it as a scapegoat. So, of course, the story is not one-sided because many Indians and their allies argue that Canadians are using them as scapegoats, as I've said earlier, because there are so many systemic issues affecting Canada. Like this perspective, they redirects the blame from immigrants to the Canadian government and its policies. The core of this argument is that problems are like the lack of housing, lack of jobs, high cost of living, and inflation are not the fault of immigrants, but are the result of government failures. They argue that the government has favored billionaire corporations and failed to build affordable housing, leading to a strained economy. From this point of view, immigrants, particularly students who are propping up our economy, quote unquote, are being unfairly blamed for a crisis they didn't create in the first place. This leads to the claim that the government is intentionally trying to divide and conquer its own people. By making Canadians fight amongst themselves, the government can divert attention away from its own failures. Okay, let us talk about a community's internal conflict. How are these Indians themselves reacting to this issue? Because within the Indian community itself, there is a clear divide in how these accusations are being addressed. Some Indians are pushing back against the scapegoat narrative, while others are openly acknowledging that the issues mentioned are true and are calling for self-reflections amongst the Indian community. Some individuals are using social media to call out their Indian brothers and sisters to stop all this indiscipline. They have been admitting that their community seems to thrive on chaos and displays an entitlement, forgetting that moving to Canada was a privilege, not a right. This perspective acknowledges the accusations of imposing culture and a general refusal to take responsibility, which they believe contributes to the resentment. Okay, there is also an acknowledgement of an obsession with shortcuts, such as fake marriages, fraudulent job offers, and under-the-table work. The sentiment is that a desire for instant success has led to a breakdown in ethical behavior, and this in turn has fueled the anger of the Canadian public. This is a very real and uncomfortable conversation happening within the community. Conversely, others in the community argue that the vast majority of the kids were just hardworking students who are being treated like absolute ish in some of the most disgusting racism I have ever seen, quote unquote. Because what these Indians in Canada believe that this is stopped by online hate groups and that Canada will ultimately be worse off for the way it is treating these immigrants. Now, what is the confluence of all these issues? So, where does this leave us? Is it a case of a community that needs to adapt, or is it a nation that misdirecting its anger? It is a likely bit of both, but the truth is often found in the messy middle. The core of the issue seems to be a disconnect. Some members of the Indian community believe that their culture is just as valid as Canadian culture and should be respected, while some Canadians believe that when you move to a new country, you have a responsibility to integrate and respect the existing cultural norms. This is all happening against the backdrop of systemic issues, a housing crisis, a strained job market, and a cost of living that continues to climb. When people are struggling, it is easy to look for someone to blame. And in a country built on immigration, it's often the newest arrivals who become the target. The anger that should be directed at the government is instead being directed at a group of people, creating a divisive and a toxic environment. Ultimately, this is a conversation that needs to be had, but it needs to be had with a focus on understanding rather than blame, because both sides have a point, and the solution likely lies in both better cultural integration from immigrants and a better job from the Canadian government in addressing the root causes of economic and social stress. Guys, I'd like to tell you that this is a story that is still unfolding, and it will be interesting to see how it shapes Canada's future. What are your thoughts? Do you believe that it is a matter of cultural integration, or is it a government failure? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you're new here, kindly remember to subscribe so that we become a family, we become a community, and don't forget to like this video so that the YouTube algorithm can be favorable to me and this video will be suggested to as many people like-minded like you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned. I hope to see you in the next video.